This is a continuation of the previous part. The good old Gam is the only one to realize that he's actually Gapro and kicks him because she was very worried, but since he's now very powerful and tough, it's GM who feels the pain of the kick as she writhes on the ground. And now everyone realizes that Gapro is actually amazing. After all, the red bear used to devour even ogres, and our protagonist defeated it with just 1 month of life, so he spent the whole day answering everyone else's questions. But he's happier to have returned alive. After a while, everyone except the red and Gotham leaves him alone. They followed him around like a mother hen with her chicks, but since he wanted new clothes, he quickly headed to where the humans were, and obviously they got scared when they saw him. The truth is, he almost cried inside because he had known them for a while, and after showing them that he was clearly the same Gapro as always, they understood. However, GM kept pinching him from below, but since he's very tough, he didn't feel anything, so he let her do what she was doing. He also returned the axe, which the blacksmith had made all bent, and since he saw that he had used it a lot, she told him that she had also made a knife with a spiritual stone. He found that very interesting and was so grateful to her that he even patted her head as if she were a little puppy, and since he had been taking care of them, the blacksmith smiled like a little girl, while our Gapro loved the girls' faces when they seemed to be tickled. But the two jealous ones pinched him even harder, and then the two blonde sisters asked him for help, so he thought it would be best to send them 3 female goblins. When they saw them grateful and happy, they surprised him because they also integrated themselves among their enemies, and that speaks well of their adaptability and mental strength. So, putting his hand on both of them, he told them that they would be very good wives in the future and, in a flirtatious manner, asked if they weren't interested in him. Those words obviously left them very embarrassed, although they also knew that he was just flattering them, and well, he was very happy to see their very pleased smiles, and at the same time, they were very adorable. But while he was enjoying everything, the other two joined him to hit him because they are extremely toxic. After that, he headed to where the alchemist was, who was obviously making potions, but more importantly, he asked her about the poison she had. So, she tells him that she wanted to use it for self-defense, but now she knows that she can trust some goblins like him, and obviously, she no longer plans to poison anyone's food, so he quickly carries her, and she mentions that he has become so imposing that she doesn't know what to do. As he carries her, she smiles, and he is amazed by her shy smile, so serene and beautiful, but then, he feels chills from the toxic ones, so he spent some time with them. The next day, on day 36, he had to cancel his afternoon fights in which he participated because he almost broke his friend Gok's armor, and he left the ordinary goblins almost dead. Obviously, he moved on to healing them. However, Gob Kichi mentioned that she was going hunting, and obviously, our Gapro noticed that something was wrong with his friend. Later, he saw the red-haired one training on her own. They also informed him that Gobu was still extracting spirit stones, and Gob and Hobbs had gone hunting together. As for him, he was weaving a large blanket to sleep in, so our protagonist took the opportunity to ask about his friend Gokichi, mostly about whether he was okay, but she only replied that it would depend on where his efforts took him. He understood that and took the opportunity to ask her to return his book, but she ignored him and tried to learn the spells as quickly as she could. Meanwhile, the old man happily watched them having fun. That particular day was a very relaxing day for our protagonist. The next day, after his usual morning training, he was calmly eating his breakfast when out of nowhere, Gobu came running, shouting for help, as he was carrying a carbuncle covered in blood. Of course, the first thing he did was heal it. Gobu explained that he found the little one while digging, and after a while, the little one woke up, wondering where she was and who they. So, our heroes explained everything that happened to her, and she agreed to talk to them. She revealed that humans attacked her recently because the jewel on her forehead can be sold for 1 billion gold coins. She asked them for a favor to hunt down those human adventurers because she doesn't have much time left. Lidana, this small carbuncle, was created by the legendary magician called Velvet, who designated her as the guardian of his secret warehouse. When the humans attacked her, they severely damaged her core, so she has very little time left. according to what Lidana heard, that secret warehouse contains mountains of legendary objects worth a fortune, and she prefers to give them to our heroes rather than let the disgusting humans keep them. Without much thought, our Gopro called the rest, as they would accept her request. That same day, they would go to the warehouse. He also asked the blacksmith to bring that spiritual stone knife she mentioned, as it would make him look more powerful to the humans, and it could serve as a deterrent against them. However, the red-haired one warned him that she wouldn't go with the intention of killing them, and she would try her best to convince them. If she couldn't, they would have to take action, and they would eat them in return. To reach Velvet's hidden warehouse, they entered through the hole in the wall that Gobu had made, and he was surprised by the tremendous strength she had despite being so small. He also asked the other goblins to hide so that he can speak alone with the humans, and while he was searching for them, he found them. Despite being in front of them, the humans shout that they will kill him and then take the jewel from the dwarf. One of them proceeds to attack him from behind, hiding his presence, but obviously, our Gopro stops him with just one hand and reproaches him for killing the inhabitants of this place and stealing their treasures, which is a clear case of robbery and murder, and the worst part is that the human adventurers don't even feel bad about it. So, even though they are a very rare race, this time he will be very compassionate with them. He tells them that if they leave now, he will spare their lives. However, the humans ignore him and start attacking him with swords, and one even throws a lightning bolt at our Gobro's head, which makes him lose his patience. Using earth magic, he stops them in place and signals for the others to come and kill them, because these fools didn't understand even with words. With the knife given by the blacksmith, he dismembers them and they all eat them. Obviously, our protagonist, being smarter, tasted a part of each adventurer to acquire their abilities. Once they were eliminated, they kept their belongings, thus finding a hermit's ring, which hides the bearer's information, and also a magic bag that can store up to 99 units of 200 types of objects. But to try something new, our protagonist ate it and acquired the inventory ability. Yes, his ability is too broken. After the feast and banquet, and seeing the adventurer's items, they headed to Belbeck's treasure chamber, where they found a lot of gold and weapons, but also the deceased body of this mage. The small Lidana thanks them, pointing to her master, who was an expert at controlling spirits. In this warehouse, they can find various spirit stones, but when it's in the hand of our Gobro, his body starts to shine and disappear from below, bidding farewell to our protagonist. Now, only the jewel remains, and he swallows it, thus acquiring the Golden Rule ability. While nearby Gob Kichi was very worried about Gobu, but she reassures him that everything is fine. They all prayed silently for Lidana to bid her soul farewell, and they collected all the treasure. Realizing that the inventory ability was very useful as everything fit inside, even though there was still space left, they left the warehouse completely clean and empty. Since he didn't want to leave the deceased magician's body just like that, he decided to cremate it. When he did, an object fell out, which was a metallic arm. Gobro quickly grabbed it, and it adhered to his body in a very painful way. This made our protagonist wonder if they gave it to him because the magician no longer needed it. This arm turns out to be a lost legacy of the gods, which has armor breaking, magic breaking, self-evolution, and elemental echo abilities. Perhaps in the future, we'll see him using some of these abilities. Obviously, when he showed it to everyone, they were surprised because it not only functions as a normal hand, but can also rotate 360 degrees, and the best part is that he can use it as his own hand, allowing him to launch poison and threads. Now that they've completed Latana's request, they prepare to cover the entrance and celebrate with the alcoholic beverages they found. So, the next day, along with the blacksmith, they began to appraise the weapons, which took the whole day. So, on day 39, he gave magical items to the 10 hobgoblins that are there now, and he kept a very fancy spear, as well as a bracelet and the already known arm, these being 3 legendary artifacts. In the afternoon, they went to look for ingredients to cook a bear stew, which turned out very delicious for the blondes. The fact that the others leveled up was very advantageous when they defeated the bear. As for the red-haired girl, she doesn't fight very well, so he thinks something should be done about it. But on day 40, he decided to choose the leader of the hobgoblins, who obviously would be below him in hierarchy, and he did this through a tournament. The next day, in the morning, he went out for a walk in search of undiscovered prey. finding a red deer with horns that looked like pink quartz, which he obviously ate. He also encountered a golden spider, from which he took the exoskeleton since it looked expensive and pretty. Thanks to this monster, he obtained the ability of golden threads. After that, he wandered through the forest, encountering a large tree where he had a mishap. It turns out that in this world, there are dryads who seduce men with their intelligence. Although they are all physically attractive, they deceive men and feed on them. The old man told him he didn't want to die without trying one of them. All of this is relevant because our lucky protagonist is facing one of them. Even though he resisted her flirtations at first, he ended up using his libido ability on her, obviously making her his own. After that, she promised to wait for him to return. But our protagonist only replied that he would return if he felt like it. So after that, our Gobro went to bathe in a lake. But then he was surrounded by lizard men and an ugly bull. Obviously, he ended up with both of them. So, on day 42, he discovered that 2 little goblins could be mages, which obviously pleased the only mage in the village, although her smile gave more chills.